Good morning, everyone. What we will actually do is just give you an overview of what's occurred over the last few days from the time that MFB got its first call at 6:40 in the morning through to where we are today. So we were called at 6:40. Initial crews found the factory well alight, and there was a number of smoke, a large amount of smoke and explosions happening, and we called for reinforcements. What we did from an MFB perspective, rather than give you the full detail, we call it an 8th alarm, and just bear with us a sec. We called it an 8th alarm, and through the great efforts of not only the MFB but all the other emergency services agencies and local agencies, we were able to call the fire under control at 12:08 lunchtime. And so initially it was around 5.5 hours to bring the fire under control. As you can see, that large plume of smoke and the flames were some distance in the air, and initially the smoke was going straight up.
And the 44 on the right hand side.
Yep, exactly. You can see that flying missile coming out of the actual fire itself, which made it very problematic for all first responders, but any of the community and the workforce that were working in their premises close by. So our priority for that particular exercise, and as for any exercise that the MFB and other emergency services are involved in, it's about safety of community and safety of the first responders. So that was priority for us. And as you can see, and I got this view when I got there just after 7 o'clock in the morning. There's not much we can do for the actual warehouse itself, so our primary focus was around about protecting the adjoining properties and mitigating the emergency as quickly as we can. There was a lot of work done early, and we moved the actual surrounding occupants of those premises as quickly as we could, because we were unclear initially just what dangers that might have spread. So our focus was on the exposures that we were dealt with. I'll put that through. So at the height of the fire, we had 175 firefighters, 40 appliances on scene. The wind was pushing the smoke away. Initially it was rising because of the thermal heat, but it was pushing the smoke away. Unfortunately, it was heading in a southwesterly direction, the smoke, and that was one of our priorities, as well as the thinking of where was the smoke going and what were the impacts on the community. We did put through 8 community warnings and messages. Very early in the piece, we had a warning and advice out. We had a number of those warnings and advice. We had 6 of those, and then we moved to an advice message after lunch later in the day. Look, we did a fantastic job collectively as first responders and government agencies to try and mitigate this emergency. It's not the kind of call you want to get just before 7 o'clock in the morning when we were aware of this premises. And the government agency had been working with them, but we worked quickly, and we were aware of the site, and we put plans in place to try and minimise the exposure, not only to the community but also to those first responders. As you can see, this is a snapshot, an aerial view of where the MFB appliances were located. And the yellow outline is where the actual premises and initially where the concerns were. Certainly from the fire site itself, and the premise on the south side of that building. There is some superficial damage to the side of that premises, and some of the outside stock has been impacted. But we've been working with all of those agencies, and that gives you just an idea of exactly where everything was on the day, and the cordon that we actually set up to move everybody out to make sure that the community was as safe as possible. So there was a large volume of smoke initially, but that's substantially reduced by lunchtime. And currently there is no smoke leaving the site as we speak, and from an MFB perspective, we're concentrating on any hotspots that might be left. We have some heavy machinery available for us today, and we'll be working to clean up those hotspots, and in the next couple of days we'll be looking to work with Victoria Police to hand the site over to the arson squad and the relevant other agencies that are here today to assist us in the recovery phase of the whole complex event. You can see the smoke did turn day into night, but the reality is, Zoe, I think if you move forward a couple of the next slide, that's what we were faced after the bulk of the fire went through. There's significant damage to the fire. The building itself has been substantially damaged, and we have to be careful from an operational perspective, putting firefighters into that danger and first responders into that danger. We're using heavy machinery to pull it apart. Is there any other slides you can flick through? So this one will do. This will just give you a bit of a fly through of the site as we were dealing with it on Friday afternoon. One of the problems, this is built concrete slabs, walls, that because the roof has come in, makes those walls very unstable. So it makes it very problematic for the emergency service to deal with. So that's hence why we brought the heavy machinery in to pull those walls down and out of the way. You can see in a couple of locations some of the walls have actually come down, but we'll be working through addressing the issues that we've got there, and it does take some time in the clean-up, making sure that we do it safely. But as I said, as of this morning when we were down at the site, there was no smoke being emitted from the building. To give you an understanding of what's happening around the site, we've allowed everyone that needed to get into their premises around that fire area the opportunity to do that over the last couple of days. So businesses are now back and operational. The power's back on as of 10:40 to the sites that were isolated during the fire. So I can tell you this morning that the power companies have put the power back on, to my understanding, everywhere bar the actual address where the fire started.